We've left the Whitsundays. It's kind of a loose plan right now.
We'll practically be self-sufficient.
It's 10 to 12 at night and we've just been hit by another boat.
Speak into the microphone, squid brain.
We've left the Whitsundays. We've been there for 9 months now. It's where we bought Soluna in the first place when we had no idea how to sail, and those are the islands that we sailed around when we were teaching ourselves how to sail.
But now we've begun our biggest adventure yet and we're so excited, but we're also still learning a lot. Not masters yet.
We've got a long way to go. We basically got quite comfortable in the Whitsundays, and obviously we didn't buy Soluna to stay in one place. This is the trip where we leave.
Originally we were planning to go just to Lizard Island.
But then we were looking at the map and we kind of thought, why are we stopping there?
Why not go all the way to the tip of Australia, the most northern point, Cape York? Even better, a bit further to Thursday Island in the Torres Strait Islands. It's about 700 nautical miles.
We basically don't know where we're going to be stopping on the way. It's kind of a loose plan right now, and we're going to be stopping in remote islands and reefs along the way. We're not going to be racing there, and obviously it depends on the weather. That's the main thing that always influences our journey. So we need to pay close attention to the wind and the tides. What are you most worried about?
Not shooting a Spanish mackerel with my spear gun, because if we don't do it, that's just horrible and horrific. That's probably my biggest worry. Not finding a wave the whole way from here to the top of Australia. The boat's good, we've worked on it, we've got it tip-top, we've got all of our safety gear, we've gone through the boat from bottom to top, side to side. I can't see why we'd be worried about our boat, the Luna, the vessel, mate. What are you most worried about?
The thing that I'm most apprehensive about is the fact that we're not going to have signal everywhere. We've obviously got the Starlink. In the Whitsundays we've been very close to any support if we were to need it. Not that we did. However, now we're sailing further north and we're going to be increasingly further away from support if we do need it.
We'll practically be self-sufficient.
There's going to be 6 weeks from when we leave Cairns and we go to the top that we have to completely rely on ourselves, which is kind of the whole point, but we haven't done that for that long before. We've only done it a few days at a time.
Nonetheless, you've got Danny on board. He can fix anything, and that's all you need. We have got a lot more redundancy items on board, a lot more safety gear, first aid kits. Hey, we actually have a first aid kit now.
We've definitely taken safety a lot more seriously. Up until we left the Whitsundays, we were kind of a bit like not worried about anything because we didn't really know what we didn't know. But now, doing some research, we've realised that there's a lot more at stake than just staying in the Whitsundays. So we have needed to get a lot of safety things should anything go wrong. So that's exciting, but also kind of scary. But my mum will be very glad to know that
Good on you, Jano.
We've got all of the necessary safety precautions in place. There's definitely some precautions that we need to think about. There's much bigger tidal ranges further north, stronger tidal streams in certain passages, definitely longer passages between places where we can stop. The further north that we go, the less populated it is, so if there were to be a problem, less places for us to stop in and sort ourselves out. Our Starlink is going to require ocean mode in a lot of places, which is kind of a problem because it's expensive. It's like $2.90 per gigabyte. We're going to need to be way more aware of the weather windows because of the distances between the passages. We need to make sure that we don't get caught out by the weather. So basically everything that we've been relying on being 5 minutes away is no longer going to be 5 minutes away.
We haven't even added up the amount of money we spent to provision. We practically got a lot of our canned food and our sauces and everything for the whole trip for the 3 to 4 months. Long life milk, meat for the freezer. I think we ended up taking 260 litres of diesel and 125 litres of unleaded.
The main thing is that we don't actually want to use the diesel in our boat because the whole point in having this boat is to use the wind and to sail. So hopefully that tank is still going to be full, but obviously we want to have some fuel in it in case of emergency. One of the most important things that we got before we went was 4 kilograms of coffee.
This was the most exciting part.
We went for the whole bean coffee this time because it lasts way longer than the pre-ground coffee. We already had our battery system with our solar panels set up. That is also able to charge off the DC-DC charger, which charges off the engine. That basically runs our entire boat. But also a main thing that we have inputted into the boat is a water maker, because we can only carry so many jerry cans full of fresh water, and obviously going up the coast, we're going to want to drink the water which is around us instead of not being able to drink anything.
This is us running the water maker for the first time.
Between me, Danny and Tazzy, we usually use about 40 litres of water per week, but we also now have a nice outdoor hot water shower. So it would just be impractical basically if we carried a deck full of jerry cans of fresh water.
We went and got all of our survival gear from Tackle World. We got everything we needed to survive. We got lures, we got a squid light, we got diving gear. Sarah kitted out for her new spearfishing adventure, and we now have no excuse to catch a fish except for being really bad at fishing. One
of the main goals that I've had is becoming a spearfisher. Danny's always getting in the coral trouts and he's getting in all of these fish, so I've got all the gear and no idea. This is a great opportunity for me to learn.
We're lucky that we sneakily got some nice pins on Navionics for some fishing spots along our route as well. So
we're going to be catching all of the fish, not all of them, sustainable only, but we're going to be catching enough fish for us to survive.
As you've seen in all of our videos, 43 foot doesn't sound that big, but it's a very long way away to talk to each other. Quite often we find each other screaming at each other.
And to be honest, that just creates more tension and arguments that weren't even needed in the first place. We have some new additions.
Sarah, do you have a copy? I'm behind you.
Copy that. What can you see in your field of vision?
Yeah, so these radios are really good for anchoring. It's so much better, and now we don't have to yell at each other, so yeah, that's definitely a win. So yeah, we're going to come back now.
Please don't.
So anyway, now we just talk to each other on the radios the whole time.
I actually quite like talking through these because I think the echo is quite cool. It makes us sound really, really professional.
So we really actually love these things. We actually just play around with them all the time. Speak into the microphone, squid brain. But it's actually got a really cool feature of you getting distracted.
Hello.
You can see the coordinates. I mean, like, where's Sarah? Radio her, and the actual GPS location will come up on the radio. We have AIS on our Orca tablet now, which is really cool. So our fixed mount radio from GME has an AIS transceiver.
So we can see where they are.
And this connects up to our Orca tablet, which then overlays the AIS onto our charts. We are obviously passing major towns like Townsville, shipping channel there, and there's boats, big cargo ships coming in and out. And if we're going to do a bit of night sailing, I want to be able to see where the ships are on the map.
We've also got an EPIRB, obviously, and we also have a PLB now, which is a personal location beacon, which you can attach to yourself, which is especially useful for when we're night sailing.
It's practically a small portable EPIRB.
Another precaution we've taken is we've downloaded offline charts, obviously. We're about to download the tide tables for Queensland. We've got a brand new cruising guide because we need one for the whole Queensland coast.
We brought 44 kilos of food for Tassie.
We had almost everything ready to leave. And then a few nights before we were meant to leave, we had probably the worst thing happen to us, which could have done. It's 10 to 12 at night and we've just been hit by another boat.
All right, so we were sleeping, having a great sleep. Next minute, bang!
Obviously, this impact shook us awake. I thought that we'd hit the rocks.
I thought, is it us? Is it us? Check the anchor alarm. And we were in the same spot. The anchor alarm hadn't gone off. Ran outside and this boat has dragged anchor straight into the front of our boat.
My first thought was, oh my God, we're sinking. Second thought was, oh my God, we can't go on our trip.
Third thought, I'm gonna kill the person who hit our boat. It was pretty scary. We got out, we had our torch looking around at the front to see damage. It got in the tender, and while Sarah was looking at the bilge to monitor if there was water coming in, and we weren't really sure until the morning.
When it had happened, I didn't really know what to do. I was kind of just walking around the boat in circles, shaking like this, and Danny was running around like a madman. And then I thought there must be some kind of like precautions that you have to do, or like, I don't know, like a car crash, like obviously you have to call the police or you have to do something about it. We're at anchor in Early Beach, it's 10 to 12. We've just been hit by another boat. Do you think this is a safety incident, not filming opportunity? Call Marine Rescue Whitsunday night and create an official stunt record while the other boat may still be nearby. Turns out we had to call the MSQ.
Maritime Safety Queensland.
We basically just reported the incident to them, and that was that. Really.
That was it.
Nothing really happened from there. Apart from the other boat drove off and we never heard anything since. Did you think it was genuinely going to stop us from leaving?
Initially, yeah, I thought that 12 ton hitting a stationary 12 ton, that's a lot of weight hitting another boat that is tight on its anchor. So yeah, I thought, well, we're here pretty much. So then we took it to the public marina and we had it inspected by a shipwright who told us that everything looks good, so on with our trip. So for anyone who's new here, we're Sarah and Danny. I'm from England. I'm from Australia.
And this is little Tassie. And 9 months ago, we bought Soluna, our 43-foot sailboat, in the Whitsundays without knowing how to sail, and we thought we'd just wing it. Anyone who's watched us from the start, they'll know that our first sails were pretty hectic. And to be honest, we're still learning so much. I feel like there's always something else to learn when you're sailing. We've hit the ground probably way more times than we should have done. The first time we sailed out to the reef as well, we had very full bilges in the middle of nowhere with no other boats around, so that was kind of a bit of a scary experience. However, Danny sorted it. This trip is where we find out if we've actually learnt anything.
And if we're ready for the next stage of sailing Soluna.
Next chapter has arrived.